Carl's underway. Stamps his authority once again.
My word, this could go wrong.
On the brakes, goodness me, what a launch.
Look at that.
It just all comes down to this. Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen. We've got another round of your APC season to get underway. And, well, we are here for the Austrian Grand Prix, round number 3 of the season. And, well, Austria, the debut race for me in APC, so it's always good to have it back. But it's myself, Joseph Black, alongside Kyle SW for this race. And we've got 12 drivers so far in the session here in qualifying. And, well, they're not going to be particularly happy about what they've got on their screens right now. But of course, race number 3 of season 10 will be heading to the Österreich-Ring, and it is going to be wet, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are in Austria with, of course, as I mentioned, myself, Joseph Black, and this time we've got a little bit of information about Kyle. 124 APC race starts, 9 podiums and 1 race win, so pretty poor stats, all things considered. But regardless of that, how are you looking forward to this Austria race?
Oh, thank you very much for having me as always, Joseph. Yes, I mean, it's funny because I made that graphic, and when I did the research, I was a little bit surprised. In my head, I could have sworn I had more than 1 race win, but turns out no, I only have 1. I can't remember what, I think it was Austria, actually, thinking about it, season 6 or something. So yeah, very unfortunate, but 9 podiums. I'm quite happy with that, actually. It's not bad going, and of course 124 race starts. Been here a long time, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Austria always throws up some funny results. I mean, it's one of those tracks where, people do finish. There's not a lot of opportunity to crash. It's actually almost quite impressive if you do manage to crash. But it throws up a lot of different results. It's a high-speed track, a lot of high-speed corners, so you need to keep that minimum speed up at all times. You've got some good drivers here who are able to do that. You've got your Chenkis, you've got your Dan Rileys who are known for doing that quite well. I mean, everyone here obviously could do it that well, but yes, the rain is here, so intermediate tyres then on for Dan Riley here, and interesting to see what lap times we can get in these conditions. I don't know about the dry conditions yet. I'm waiting for somebody to send them to me. In fact, I think they have sent them to me, so I will check that while you are speaking. But yeah, quality ban there for Krypton, Connor Stewart Woodard as well, so he was a little bit naughty last time out. And in other news, so we obviously saw Leandro Ratto, unfortunately, leave us last week out in what we can only describe as dramatic fashion. And Paul Garung, unfortunately, there were some changes in his schedule for the next sort of couple of months. So he said he's not able to race, and he will be a reserve for at least the first half of the season. He will review that for the second half, which will be exciting if we can get him back. So Ollie Matthews, as you've probably seen on your screen, has decided to jump ship and jump into Leandro Ratto's seat at Aston Martin, and therefore Ollie and Owen Baldero will be mounting a charge for that team's championship. Of course, Aston took the team's championship very early on after race 1, lost it after race 2. We'll see those standings very shortly, but yes, they lost the team's lead in the team standings, apologies, but now they want it back, and they want to finish the season on top of the fast running Ferraris. However, Ethan Shackleton is sitting this one out, so we will see how that goes. And not Owen, you are Joseph. Joseph, I'll leave you to run through the standings as they currently are.
Of course, as you say, the Aston Martin were in the lead after race 1. It is looking a little bit different, the dynamic, though, at the top, and it'll be Andrei Chenkov and Ethan Shackleton. It's different, but somehow still the same old for the Racing Bulls outfit, chasing in behind. They're chasing the Ferrari team. It'll be Andrei Chenkov and Ethan Shackleton, 3 points ahead of the 2 Racing Bulls of Bert Welly and Luca Seracini, and, of course, both of them racing tonight. Bert Welly just going to the top of the field with a 1:13.747. Aston Martin, third place, 40 points, 12 off of the lead, and, of course, that's no longer Leandro Ratto and Owen Baldero. It is now Owen Baldero and Ollie Matthews. Ollie Matthews, who is in that McLaren outfit at the moment on the standings, 25 points for the team, and they won't be picking up any more because they now no longer have 2 full-time drivers. Mercedes in 5th place, Aria Stone and Dan Riley, and they'll be hoping to jump up ahead, but there is no sign of Aria Stone tonight, so Dan Riley is flying the flag so far for the German outfit. Haas in 6th place, Alexander De Vickel and Matthew Gatches. Williams with Harrison Robinson and Regan Harding, and Brian Moore and Connor Stewart-Woodard representing Kick Sauber. Those are the three teams that are yet to get out of single figures, yet to get into double figures, and that is 8, 7 and 5 respectively. But just have a look at the drivers' standings as well, and it will be Andrei Chenkovan on double the amount of points of Ollie Matthews in second place. A huge gap to hold. Owen Boldero has third place, 22 points for himself, and Leandro Rata with just the 18 is no longer going to compete. That means that Alexis Mason, if she turns up at any point tonight, I know that she may well have internet issues that will prevent her from doing so, but at the moment she will sit in 5th place. If she's going to gain points tonight, she'll go ahead of Leandro Ratto. Bert Welly in 6th place, Lucas Erasini in 7th, so the two V-Carbs barely split by anything. Daniel Riley sits in 8th place, and then Matthew Gatches is in 9th with Aria Stone and Harrison Robinson joint rounding out the top 10. Connor Stewart-Wood and Ethan Shackleton picked up their first points of the season last time out, getting past Regan Harding and Alexandra Vickel, and that is the 16 drivers who've scored points so far. Nobody new racing this evening, so they'll be adding to their tallies if anything, and well, we do have a couple of absences to speak about.
Indeed. So yeah, as we said, Ethan Shackleton not here. And to quote the great Jeremy Clarkson, good news! Alexis Mason is in the lobby. Happened while you were going through the standings. So yes, she will be filling in for Ethan Shackleton. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic. She is obviously very, very keen to get that race win that eluded her last week out. She was very, very fast, and she kind of felt that she should have got it. Fortunately, due to an incident with Leandro Ratto, she did then get that 3-second penalty, which she thought was unfair, but unfortunately, the stewards felt that she could have done more to not cut the track. So she'll be very keen to get that win, but keen enough to risk a double Ferrari DNF? That would be the question. I mean, as we say, this kind of track, it's quite hard. Somebody just appeared on track in front of... That was very weird, in front of Bert Welly there. I was on board with Bert Welly and somebody was just... Is it Regan? I don't know what happened there. Very odd, very odd. So, I think it was Regan. I think Regan must have crashed on the pit entry. And Regan's left the session. Okay, we'll look into why that's happened. That's very odd. Speaking of Regan, actually, last week out then, so we were very confused how the race started and Regan was kind of crawling off the line. He told me that apparently every time he was accelerating, it was pausing his game. So he just couldn't move. Every time he went to accelerate, game pause, accelerate, game. So he had nothing he can do. So he gave up and just retired in the pit lane. So that's what happened there. So that clears up that mystery from last week. But hopefully Regan could do a bit better this week if he remains in the session, and we will see. Speaking of the weather then, it looks like we have mixed conditions in the race. So qualifying session, wet throughout. Doesn't look like it's going to get any better either. But mixed conditions in the race. One thing to remember, we do run approximate forecasting here, so it can often be wrong. But yeah, it looks like we're in for a spicy evening ahead of us.
Yeah, we should be indeed. And, well, we went on board with, I believe it was Ollie Matthews at least, as he headed through the final corner. And we saw Regan parked out on the exit by the wall. So I think potentially what's happened is he might have had a wheel disconnect, something like that, that would have sent him off of the circuit. One of the Ferraris has just come through to set their lap. That be Alexis Mason up to second place, up to the front row of the field, a 10th or 2 tenths even off of Bert Welly at the front, 5 tenths ahead of third placed Harrison Robinson. And Andrei Chenkovan, the only driver who has not retired from this session, still to set a time. Of course, the two Haas drivers don't particularly have a representative one. They are 3 seconds off, and there's a bit of an improvement from Alexander Vickel up to 9th place. Chenkovan, though, will be hoping to knock one of the Haas drivers out of the top 10 as soon as the end of this lap, and he's going to keep it clean, he's going to keep it valid in the first part of this one so far. Then he'll head through to the end of the second sector, and he'll hope to challenge at least his teammate with a 1:13.157, if not Bert Welly at the top, who currently holds the lead with a 1:12.948. And well, we had a chat with Bert Welly before this race, and he was feeling very, very good about the previous race. Hasn't practiced much for today though, and is expecting good points. But yeah, we'll see how the man who feels confident but hasn't had much practice is going to do. As Chenkovan up to the line, and there he finds almost 3/4 of a second off of Bert Welly's time. That is sensational, and that is the levels that Andriy Chenkovan has. That is exactly why he's going to be the driver in the lead of the standings by over double everybody else's points. There is levels to this game, and at the moment, Andriy Chenkovan's are unmatched.
Oh yes, Andriy Chenkovan, absolutely smashing it as always. So a big step there is yet to be seen whether that's going to be down to track evolution or whether that's just going to be down to Andriy Chenkovan being Andriy Chenkovan. Of course, the latter isn't often the reason, but we'll wait and see. Of course, we don't know about setups either. Andrew could be running a much higher downforce setup. Everyone else might be going for a more drier setup, which, looking at the forecast, may be a mistake, but it's going to be an interesting one. And we love these races where a lot of strategy plays a part in it, because it really adds a lot of spice to it. Now, Regan is going to come back, he told me. His will is in shambles, is the word he's used. I can't shift. Should have fixed it by now. I'll jump back shortly. Can I get an invite, which I will deal with after I finish speaking. So, yeah, hopefully Regan will be back for the race and will be able to fight his way back through in these mixed conditions. But, yeah, Chenky absolutely smashing it. But up in second then. And the reserve of Alexis Mason, trying to make sure we don't get it wrong this week, sitting there in third. So big gaps at the moment, apart from well, I'll take that back. That is Alexis Mason then, just over a tenth, or I should say just under 2 tenths behind Andriy Chenkovan then. So some faster laps coming in now. Who else can get on board? Who else can get into the 1:12.3s? Can anybody even improve and maybe get into a 1:11? We've got 6 minutes 44 left to find out.
Yeah, and well, it was the start of a lap and the end of a lap as well for Bert Welly within one corner. He is invalidated his time, and well, we have a look at the two Ferraris at the top. Of course, they are the top of the constructors' standing, so it's unsurprising. And then the V-Cubs in third and fourth place on the second row of the field. Aston Martin just behind in third with their new lineup, and they're going to hope to cut their way into it as Regan's back in the session, and he will be starting from the back of the field. I do have a question, in fact, and that is, I mean, of course, Connor's got a qualifying ban. Is there going to be some sort of order manipulation to make sure that Connor is actually at the back of the field, or is it just going to be a case of, well, Regan is out of the session as Chenkovan goes fastest?
It's the latter. So Regan had the opportunity to get ahead of Connor. All he had to do was just, do one lap around the block, and he'd have been absolutely fine. Around the block. I don't think you've ever heard that in Sky commentary, have you? But yeah, one quick lap. He didn't even have to be fast, and he would have stopped ahead of Connor. But unfortunately, he managed to put it into the pit entry wall. So not a lot we can do about that one, unfortunately. So Connor's got lucky there and has jumped up a position. It's the same if somebody got a 5-place penalty, as Owen Boldero then jumps ahead of Alexis Mason. So these times are tumbling, and we are in the 1:11s with Andriy Chenkovan. But yeah, if somebody gets a penalty, for example, they'll also drop behind, and that is just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is, as you say, and well, that's just the way it's going to be as Ollie Matthews continues on a lap. I think it might just be a cool-down lap, though, but we are getting closer to the 1:11s. Of course, Andriy Chenkovan already in them, and we might be seeing Owen Boldero in them very soon, but he's 3 tenths off, as is Alexis Mason, as is Ollie Matthews, so those drivers very close to the top of the field. Bert Welly and Luca Seracini, both in the 12.9s, so a second off of Andriy Chenkovan at the very top of the standings, and I don't think they're going to be challenging for that anytime soon unless they can throw something in from the last lap. Dan Riley, we haven't seen much of him today. He's in 8th place with a 13.939, so he's going to be 2 seconds off of Andriy Chenkovan, and this is all about who's been able to nail the wet conditions straight away. Chenkovan has. Everybody else just finding their feet, as Luca Seracini up to 5th. Dan Riley almost finds a second. He only gains 1 place though, up into 7th, and that's the difference between the drivers at the moment, as he is going to go up just 200ths off the back of Bert Welly, but still 5.5 tenths of a second behind Luca Seracini. And Bert Welly, my goodness me, what an unbelievable time. I think surely that track is drying because they are getting so much faster, but still, for the V-Carb to pull out that much time, he must have had an absolutely unbelievable flow state kind of lap.
Yeah, I wish I was on board with that. That's fantastic from Bert Welly. So Bert's obviously had a bit of a quiet season so far. We haven't really seen much of him. He hasn't been setting the time to he hasn't been sort of doing any crazy overtakes. He's been kind of just there doing his own thing and just getting some good points. So one comment that came in as Andriy Chenkovan said, I don't think so. Thank you very much. I'll take that back. But one thing I saw earlier in chat was Somebody said, I'm not sure which one of them, but somebody said V-carb domination starts now. So they're obviously feeling confident, and I can absolutely see why. But yeah, this track must be improving. Can Matthew Gatchis then get himself up in the mix here? Up to the line. I mean, it's an improvement, and it's a position improvement. So absolutely, you know, there's still time to be found then. So this track is definitely getting faster and faster. Regan is obviously going to be ruin the fact that he hit that wall. He obviously would have been able to go faster, just like everyone else. So not ideal as Owen Boldero. Does a little Tokyo drift around the final corner there then. Can he go even faster here? And he can. So he's also in the 111s. It's not enough, but by a 4/10th improvement, this track is drying. And this last 2.5 minutes is going to be very exciting. Who's going to take it?
We will, of course, see Andrew Chenkovan in the best position right now. Burt Welly in second place. Owen Boldero, the only other driver within a second, as we're going to have Harrison Robinson around the final corner and validating on a lap that was up by a second. Unfortunate then, it was in fact 9/10 of a second that he was going to improve by, but no dice. It still wouldn't have been an improvement that much in terms of positioning. It would have been up to 7th place. But of course, with all the laps still to go, 2 minutes 17 left in the session. It's the final opportunity for all of these drivers to do something indeed. Andrew Chenkovan up to the first sector split time. He's improving, but not by much. 0.013 for the Ferrari as he heads through that first sector, heads out of turn number 3 and down towards turn number 4, trying to put the power down as quickly as possible. Had a bit of a wiggle, so he's not going to quite have the straight line speed that he would have been hoping for, as that is the Williams out of the way. That is going to be Harrison Robinson out of the way, and you can see how much Andrew Chenkovan is throwing the car. He is really, really pushing to the absolute limit in this Ferrari to extract all of the time that he can, but he's going to be offset. The car and the times are going to get quicker and quicker and quicker. We saw improvements by about for Chenkovan, it was 0.6 of a second. For the majority of the drivers, it was a whole second in between about the 3 or 4 minutes they had between runs. Chenkovan is going to get his run completed before everybody else even begins theirs. So it's risky times for the Ferrari, but it may well pay off if he sets a lap just like that. A 1:11.026 for Andriy Chenkovan. What a lap that is, and he's going to eke out his advantage over the majority of the field, up to over a second and some change as well. It's 1.3 the difference between himself and Alexis Mason, and with all these drivers coming through, with Matthew Gatchis invalidating once again, they are all going to go for one more lap around this circuit. And well, for Harrison Robinson, I believe he's going to be the first one to be setting a time, and it's not a bad one so far.
Tell you what, it's getting a bit crazy in the second sector. It looks like everybody just wants to be the last person on track here, and I don't blame them. With the conditions as they are, if it's improving as much as it looks like it is, being the last person across the line could really pay off. But it's almost a bit of a no after you, no after you kind of thing going on here. And it looks like it may well be Ollie Matthews. It's hard to tell because I can't really see the time right now. But it looks like it'll be Ollie Matthews because Alexis Mason is now just starting the lap. She went for a warm-up lap, which is very interesting. But yeah, so now just starting her final lap behind Burt Welly, I believe it is. And it's going to be a case of last across the line, may well be fastest. However, that 1:11 dead from Chenky is going to be very hard for anybody to beat there. So Harrison then across the line for 1:12.3. That will be the best he can do for this session. Can anybody else get ahead of him or Chenky for that matter? Chenky goes across the line and solidifies that 1:11.0. Couldn't improve any more. But we have now got Brian Moore coming across, and it's invalidated for Brian, so that is unfortunate. Matthew Gatchis is going to give it a go. What's Matthew Gatchis going to do? That's a good improvement in for 1:12.9 for Matt Gatchis. And a few more cars will come across the line very shortly. I will take Alexandru. That is 1:14.6. So good showing from Alexandru. 1/10 behind Brian Moore, who's normally a little bit faster than him, so he'll be happy with that. But can these last few drivers take that pole position?
They're going to have to find at least 5/10 if you're Burt Welly. They're going to have to find more time if you're anyone else. And Ollie Matthew up to third place on this grid. He is going to be starting from the second row of the field at the very least. Only Alexis Mason, Owen Boldero and Burt Welly to go. And Burt Welly does not improve, throwing the car through the final corner, as that is going to be Alexis Mason up to the front row. What can Owen Boldero do? Nothing to spoil the Ferrari party, and the Tifosi will see their drivers on the front row of this field. Andrew Chenkovan will lead the way, and it will be the reserve driver Alexis Mason alongside. 5/10 splits first and third, with Burt Welly operating on the second row of the grid alongside the Aston Martin of Ollie Matthews. Then the Aston Martin of Owen Boldero will be alongside the V-Carb of Luca Seracini, and then Dan Riley, Harrison Robinson, Matthew Gatches, and Brian Moore will round out the top 10. Alexander Vickel will round out the drivers with times, and then Connor Stewart-Woodard and Regan Robinson will be the drivers to round out this 13-car field. But, I mean, it was going to look to be spicy, and that qualifying session has certainly looked like it's delivered.
Yeah, Regan Harding, but it's easily done. There's so many new names we're still getting used to here. I mean, I'm making the same mistakes, but he'll shout at me if I don't, if I don't correct you. But yeah, that was absolutely. I mean, I don't even have a good adjective for it. If I'm honest, we knew it was going to be a crazy one. Yeah, I have not seen obviously what Alexis said this week. I have muted the Discord chat because it was so distracting last week. But I'm sure Alexis is not going to be very pleased with that, because to get 1/10 away. It's just going to remind her of last week where she was basically on for the win, just wasn't able to get it. So, yeah, she's not going to be too pleased about that one, I'm sure. But there's now a really good chance to finish ahead of Chenky. And, of course, as you say, it's the Ferrari one too. So, Ethan Shackleton's had a bit of a struggle to the beginning of the season so far. He's not here this week, and I'm sure he'll be happy that at least his car and his team are getting some decent points. Someone who won't be happy about that, of course, are the Aston Martins. But being up there with in the mix with the Ferraris, they'll be very pleased. And the question is going to be as to whether they can get past on this track. And if there's any track they're going to do it, it's going to be Austria.
Yeah, they're going to give it a go. Austria, of course, the shortest circuit on the calendar and the least amount of corners as well. So it's going to be just over a minute lap time in this race session. I'm expecting it to be about 105, 106 fastest lap. I might be going a bit mad, but that's what I'd be expecting at the very least, I think, at least, because from the esports drivers I'd be expecting something more like a 103, and well, of course, we will see what the drivers are capable of in just a couple of moments time, but we will see as the drivers will be getting their final preparations ready. Who have you got on your bill for this one?
I think Alexis has got it this time. She is determined. She felt robbed last week. She had the pace, but just a small incident that put her that slightly wide, cost her the win there. She says, obviously, she didn't rejoin straight away because she didn't want to risk running into Chenky. And, you can't blame that logic. That's a good way to think about it, and that shows some good racing. But at the same time, it was hard to say as to whether she would have hit Chenky if she had rejoined. Was that just an excuse? Was that just good driving? It's so hard for the stewards to make decisions like that the penalty stayed. So she'll be determined, and I think this is going to be the race that she's going to do. She said she couldn't race this week, but some schedule change, and she's here, and feels like a good omen.
Yeah, it certainly does feel like a good omen. And we will, of course, see how she does with her new quote-unquote teammate alongside her on the front row, Andrei Chenkofan, who's going to be a big, big challenger for this season's title and has done so far. He's challenged and he's looking for a lot more in this race. Of course, looks like he's got 2 race victories because he's on 50 points. We know that, of course, that is indeed the case, and he's going to look maybe to go and try and see how far he can go 100%ing into the season. Tell you what, I won't cut my hair until Andrei Chenkofan loses a race. That's a way of getting eyes on us, just like the United Strand has eyes. Not that you'll be able to see me anyway, and not that I'm going to have a haircut for another few months anyway, but that's not the point. Andrei Chenkofan is looking very, very dominant at the moment and is looking for 3 victories in 3 races in this championship. We've just got a few minutes to go before this race will get underway, and the drivers will be itching to get going. Just having a look at some of the strategies that they'll be potentially taking part in this evening. It's going to be quite high tyre wear on the fronts just because of how much they're going to have to throw the cars into the corner, and I'm thinking maybe it's going to be a 2-stop strategy for some. Maybe some are going to try and stretch to the 1-stops, but of course the formation lap ready to get underway, and we will see what these drivers are going to be going onto. And for the tyres, it'll be hards for Andrea Chenkofan, hards for Owen Boldero, hards for Robinson, Gatches and Brian Moore, and then hards as well for Connor Stewart-Woodard and for Regan as well. And it's Regan Harding, not Regan Robinson, isn't it? I've married 2 drivers together again.
Yes, yeah, indeed. I mean, I'm sure they would make a fantastic couple, but that's obviously a different show entirely. I think Paddy McGuinness we're gonna leave that one to him. But Riga looks like is in the session. So there's a thing with this game where I'm trying to get down to Riga, but my thing isn't working. So that's always fantastic. And there's a thing in this game where if you don't if you're not in the car as you get into formation lap, you won't let you take control of the car until the grid. So looks like Regan Harding, not Regan Robinson, is here. Harrison's a hard one for me because there's a shop where I live, a very famous shop that has called Harrison, but it's a different last name. I won't say it because it'll give away where I live. But yeah, and I keep having to stop myself saying that name. It's not that name. It's Harrison Robinson and Regan Harding. But I'm sure we wouldn't have to worry about Aria Mason or Alexa Stone this week because we don't have Aria Stone, it would appear, which is very odd. I wonder if he's done what Paul Garung did last week and fell asleep. He actually had the game loaded up, sim set up, everything set up, and fell asleep. So not ideal for Paul. So that explains why he wasn't here last week. One last thing to note. Do I remember what it was? Yes, your hair. So if you're going to grow your hair, I think we need to introduce face cams for the remainder of this season so that everyone gets. Tell you what, if Chenky stops winning and you've got to grow your hair, it's face cams for the rest of the season for the presenters, I reckon.
Absolutely fine by me, but I do think you're right. I think Alexis Mason has a really good shot here, and we will of course find out as the final car is up to the back of the grid. That'll be Regan Harding right up to the back, and of course the only driver on the 7th row of the field. But the 5 lights are going to come on in just a couple of moments' time ahead of the drivers, and here they come. There's 2, 3, 4, 5. The lights are on. The drivers are ready. And the action's underway. Very good start from Andrea Chenkovan. Very good launch. And I don't think that Alexis Mason is going to be able to do anything. Nope, she's going to tuck inside into the turn number 1. The two teammates side by side, Ollie Matthews and Owen Boldero. And they are still going to continue their fight as they head up to the next braking zone of turn number 3. Who's going to be able to duke it out and take the victory in this little battle? It's going to be Ollie Matthews, and Dan Riley sticks his nose in as well. Owen Boldero drops down a position, and there's contact between Matthews and Riley. And it opens the door for Lucas Erasini to join the fight as well. He's going to be on the inside into turn number 5, the next braking zone, and Dan Riley sends it as far as he can on Ollie Matthews. A bit more contact between Matthews and Lucas Seracini, and Seracini in the end is able to find his way through as there's a swap for the lead of the race. Alexis Mason is really challenging with Andrea Chenkovan here, but just backs out. That is Chenkovan backing out, and that is Alexis Mason pulling back out and pulling into that race lead.
What a fantastic start that was. Yes, they're both Ferraris then. I was on board with Alexis Mason, and both Ferraris got a much better start than anyone else on the field. Burt Welly was left behind, however, was able to stay ahead of the Aston Martins. So the Aston Martins then are the biggest losers, I believe, from that start. I'm going to have a look at that because, yeah, not ideal. So the Aston Martins both down 2 positions. Dan Riley, good winner there, 3 positions up. However, Regan Harding is the biggest winner there now, actually, as we speak, 5 positions up. So Regan doing a fantastic job, and this is what we want to see from Regan as Burt now goes into 2nd place then. So Chenky is going backwards, although it looks like he's going to take it back. But your hair might be about to get very long if Chenky carries on going in that direction. But yeah, Dan Riley be very happy with this. He's had a bit of a struggle to the start of the season as well. So him and Ethan Shackleton, both uncharacteristically quite far down the order recently, and we've seen in previous seasons they've both got a lot of pace. So Dan Riley looking good to actually get a good result here. I believe from my memory he won here he won the sprint I think last year, where I was actually starting ahead of him. I got into the lead and he got past me and just took off. So decent pace here for Dan Riley, so hopefully this will be the race where he can get a bit of redemption. Looks like Connor Stewart Woodard then 1 position up as well, and Luca Seracini 1 position up. So yeah, it's changed a lot since we started this race then. So the grid is completely messed up, and that is a Ferrari. That is Andrea Chenkovan then facing the wrong way. So I mean, you might have jinxed him with this whole hair thing. Maybe he heard you and decided, you know what, I want to see what his hair looks like long, but that's a very uncharacteristic mistake. Then we didn't see what happened. So it could have been a pass from Burt, or it could have been on his own. We'll have to find out. Unfortunately, that was not recorded. But down 12 positions then for Andrea Chenkovan. That's unfortunate, but there are still 34 laps to go.
Oh, have you know, the agreement, or at least the agreement I had in my head, was that if Andriy Chenkovan keeps winning, then I won't cut my hair. As soon as he starts losing, that's when I would. So there'll be Andriy Chenkovan winning the race. I may well have said it wrong. Of course, you'll be watching it back and making sure that you let me know as there's contact. Brian Moore and Alexander Vikol. And Vikol goes for a big slide off at the back of that, and that's a free position for Chenkovan in his attempts to climb right back up. I think he's got the wrong setup on, for Andriy Chenkovan. I think that's the only reason I can see why he's dropped so far, and he had such problems with traction. Of course, we saw it out of turn number 3, which is why Burt Welly was challenging originally, and then out of turn number 1 as well. That's when he went round, as we've had our first couple of penalties in this race, and our first 3 now coming in. Dan Riley picked up the first one for this race, as Ollie Matthews is on the inside of said Mercedes and just has a bit of a slide on the exit of the corner. Harrison Robinson and Connor Sherwood have picked up penalties as well. They've all got track limit penalties. They've all got 3 seconds, and they're going to hope to keep out of the track limits for the rest of this race. But Dan Riley just under pressure from Ollie Matthews here as Harrison Robinson makes his way through on Matthew Gatches. Gatches is going to try and keep the tyre around on the outside, and he's going to be able to keep on the outside line, but in the end he has to just back out, and Harrison Robinson remains ahead. Regan Harding, his teammate, 2.8 up the road, and he's kind of in a race of his own with 2.2, the gap between himself and Owen Boldero as well. Boldero, who's all over the back of his teammate, might be making a move into 1.
Yeah, these position changes have not stopped, have they? They have not calmed down. It's all the way from the top to the bottom of the field. A lot of track limit penalties coming in as well, which is very easy to do here in Austria. It's so easy to cut the corner or run wide. It's turn 1 there especially. You have to turn in so precisely. You have to do it at such high speed that you get it slightly wrong and you will absolutely cut the corner. So it looks like then Ollie Matthews is going to have a go on Dan Riley. Can he still follow through? Dan Riley said no, I don't think so. Dan Riley wanted to hold that position. It looks like they both just stayed on track. So looked a little bit aggressive from Riley, but definitely fair. And I don't think Ollie would be arguing with that. But Ollie Matthews wants to come back, and it's not going to happen. So Dan Riley is doing a fantastic job to keep these 2 fast Aston Martins behind, given that they both qualified ahead of Dan. So he'd be very happy about that at the moment. More battles further down. Looks like Connor and Matthew Gatches are hanging on to each other, and actually Harrison as well. And yeah, Andriy Chenkovan looking to come back. So actually, I'm glad you brought the tyres up, as the Aston Martins now go side by side into the corner, and that is Owen Boldero says, let me have a go. One thing I will say, I have seen these 2 in the Aston Martin Team Radio Discord channel within our server, which is a private channel, so you're not allowed to listen to Weekend. Obviously, you're sitting with myself and you, Joseph. But yeah, so they are working together. They are being a team, which is what we like to see. We like to see that sort of thing. So he obviously said, I'm faster. I've got the faster tyre. My hard tyres are faster than your medium tyres right now. Let me have a go. And so far, it looks like that may have been the call, because Owen Boldero then and Dan Riley go side by side. It looks like Owen Boldero then gave Dan Riley a bit of a taste of his own medicine, given what he did with Ollie last time out. Will Dan fight that with the stewards? Yet to be seen. And actually, the positions have just flipped straight back on their head again, and it looks like Dan Riley might, and they've come together then. So Dan Riley and I don't even know which Aston that was. I think it was Ollie Matthews. Have come together, and I think it's Ollie. I'm gonna let you take this, because I can't work out who's who here, because both Astons are all over the back of Dan Riley. In fact, they're both ahead of him now. So yeah, that was quite a scrap, wasn't it?
I believe it was good teamwork between them. I believe the contact was between Riley and Boldero on the exit of the corner. Boldero was on the inside line, and just Dan Riley swept across, thought he'd got the position done, and that was at the moment that they made contact. No damage, I believe, for any of them, especially not for either of the Aston Martins. I'm trying to have a look at Dan Riley's car, and no damage for any of them. So they're going to be able to go at it all over again. But they've got Regan Harding for company as well for this fight for the top 4. But I do think that the 2 Aston Martins just have a bit too much pace, and they're going to start and stretch their legs now. Dan Riley was able to hang in there mainly because he had the medium compounded tyres, which now are going off, as Andriy Chenkovan's found his feet and found P9. He's gotten through on Matthew Gatches and has Harrison Robinson, the next driver up, to pick off. He'll have the DRS on the Williams, as well, another Williams. Regan Harding is going to try and get through on Dan Riley. This will be a huge send if Chenkovan can pull it off, and indeed he's going to trying to go to the inside line. Bit of contact between the 2, but ultimately a very clean move that Andriy Cenkovan's just been able to make his way through on, and Regan Harding in the meantime through on Dan Riley. He sets his sights on the cars ahead, and I think that's a sign that it's going to be time for the medium compound runners to really try and stretch their legs.
Big news then, Dan Riley and Regan Harding came together in turn 3, and Dan Riley has lost his end plate, which is why you're now seeing him go into the pits and getting off these medium tyres. So the medium tyre runners are, I thought he was going to speed there. The medium tyre runners are starting to struggle now, which is not good news for Alexandre Vickel then, because he is at the back and wasn't able to capitalise on the medium tyres while they were fresh. So unfortunately, he probably will fall further backwards, but anything can happen. Safety car can happen. A lot can turn this race upside down. Unfortunate for Dan Riley then, because he was running very well. Yet to be seen if he will put a stewards inquiry into the battle with either Owen Boldero or Regan Harding. I'm expecting potentially one for the Regan Harding one if his wing did come off. We just missed it. Unfortunately, I was hoping to get it on the replay camera, but we were just slightly too late. We did see the wing fly off, but we didn't quite see the overtake. We might see a bit of it on the replay camera. We'll have to wait and see when this goes to edit. But yes, unfortunate for Dan. You know, he's got a lot of pace, and he's been a bit upset that he's not been able to show it. Upset's probably not the right word, but this looked like the race where he was going to be able to do that. I tell you what, those 3-second penalties are coming in thick and fast. I think some point halfway through the race, when we have a little look at those, that's going to be interesting, because that's also going to change the order massively. Chenky might be currently in 7th position, but he's penalty free, quite most importantly. And it looks like with Noah's Arkin, again, this seems to be happening quite a lot this season. The teammates all seem to have chosen people who they can match, because Bert and Lucas Serafini then are together. The Ferraris were together earlier on, and the Aston Martins have been together for ages. It looks like, I was going to say Owen Boldero dragging along Ollie Matthews, but actually Ollie Matthews is in front, isn't he? So medium tyres holding on then for Ollie Matthews. He's not doing too bad, and they are both catching the RBs in front. Lucas Serafini, of course, sat out last week, so he'll be hoping to return to podium ways. This would be technically a podium streak, because we ignore the fact that he wasn't here last week. And can this carry on to this race and races beyond? If Ollie Matthews has anything to say about it, that answer is going to be no.
Yeah, he's going to hope to, and well, since he last raced, nothing really has changed apparently for Lucas Erracini, and well, he doesn't mind Austria, but he's extremely ill, unfortunately, and so he hasn't been able to get as much practice in as he would have liked to, and he would like to get a top 5 at minimum and a podium at maximum, and of course at the moment he's running in podium places, so he's doing a very good job just to keep that running in, and he's going to continue to try and charge his way forward through the rest of the order, through the rest of the laps, and we are 10 through 36 at the moment, and well, we don't have I mean, it sort of seems to fly by around Austria because of course how short the lap is. It really does seem to fly by, and these drivers are fully taking advantage of that right now. It's a very fun circuit to drive, at least I find, but I mean, I don't think I've touched it on this year's game. Have you had a look, had a practice, seen what it's like from the driver's perspective?
Yeah, obviously I drove here obviously last year in season 9, so great track. I mean, I've always loved Austria. It's a lot of fun to drive. It's quite hard to get right though, but it's a lot of fun to drive. It looks like Bert might be pulling into the pits on this lap. Let's quickly see that before I carry on. He's not. So both RB staying out then, and both Aston Martins then. So yes, I don't know if you've had a chance to try Austria reverse at any point, but this game allows you to do that, and I prefer it. I think this track is so much more fun in reverse, as Lucas Serafini then runs wide on the exit of turn 1, but keeps it in and keeps ahead, importantly, of the Aston Martins. It looks faster than his teammate right now, and his teammate looked like he might have been letting him pass there, but that didn't quite happen. The swap didn't happen. So if you've not had a chance to try Austria reverse, give it a go, because I think it is a much more fun track, and I would love to see it on the real life calendar.
Yeah, it would certainly be good, and well, that's Lucas Serafini throwing Burt Welly in the end of the DRS, but I've had a look at it a couple of times. It's treacherous to race online, but it is good fun to race in general. It's just because everything, of course, is designed to go the other way, so you've got the curbings that will throw you forward, even when you don't want it to, even when that's not really what it's supposed to do, because that's just the way the circuit's designed. That's just the way that everything is designed. It's designed around it all being forward, and suddenly it's been flipped backwards. That can change things quite significantly, and well, it's a shame that the drivers didn't actually vote to have that on the calendar this time around. It's a shame they went for the forward run, because it would have been nice to see something slightly different, because, as I say, it's a bit treacherous. Drivers and league owners alike don't trust each other to race around this circuit backwards, which is why I think it would have been interesting and fun to watch. But of course, the drivers would have been more serious about it. Of course, it's a bit more of a serious championship than that, because that would just be a bit more Creator Series-y. I think that's more what it's designed for. And I know you're a big fan of the Creator Series. You can agree or disagree with me, because I won't lie, I haven't watched it since I broadcasted it a while ago. So I am not up to snuff on it. But it feels a little bit too gamey for a league. But it's certainly fun nonetheless, as Chenkvan makes his latest move. That's going to be on Regan Harding, and Regan looking to fight back, but doesn't quite have the overspeed, as Chenkvan's really kicked into gear here.
Before I even talk about Creator Series, Joseph, it is raining on track. This is about to get spicy. So this is why the medium runners have held out so long, because they were waiting for the rain, and they've all done a great job to get here. So I think this is, commendable. Can they last long enough? Of course, there was a race last time out at Spa last season where somebody's tyres were very, very old, and they had to go on to Inters about 5 laps before the rain come. I can't for the life of me remember who it was. It was like a Kyle something or other. But yeah, it was that person. Fell all the way to the back. We were able to fight back again once the rain did come out, but the damage was unfortunately done. So can these medium tyres? Oh, Ollie Matthews there. I cannot. 2 Aston Martins starting with O. Very, very hard. But Ollie Matthews there losing the back end then out of turn 3. So he wants to be doing that a little less, because he needs these medium tyres now to hold on to the pit stop. How long will they be able to run until the track gets too wet? The game does tell us when the DRS is disabled, but yeah, as actually Alexandru has gone into the pit. What tyres, Alexandru, have you gone on to? You have gone on to the intermediate tyres. So he's pulled the trigger early then, and all the other drivers will be looking at his lap times. Whoa! As Bert makes a last-minute decision then to jump into the pit lane. And that sort of took both Aston Martins by surprise then. A crash almost happened there. That is not what you have needed. So Bert obviously thinking it's the right time to get onto the intermediate tyres. I'm looking forward to finding out if that was the right decision.
Yeah, have a look at the time delta between Alexander Vickel and everybody else in the field. At the moment, it doesn't look as though they are the tyre to be on, but watch this space, because this can change very, very quickly. Of course, with it being such a short track, it doesn't really have much of an opportunity to have changeable conditions. So some corners will be wet, some corners will be dry. This circuit doesn't really allow that. It's circuits like Spa where you can have something along those lines, but here, no dice, no problems for yourself. It's either dry or it's wet, and the drivers are going to hope that it's wet very shortly so they can dive into the pit lane, especially the drivers that have already dived in. They're going to be hoping that it is going to be dry or going to be wet very, very soon, so they can take full advantage of gambling onto that undercut, but they'll be fearing that it's not going to be. Dan Riley is gaining a little bit of time on Brian Moore, but don't forget that may well be just because he is the quicker driver, and it's because this is the changeover period. That means where it's kind of, you can go for both. And in these sort of scenarios, I would definitely be going for the intermediate tyre right now, maybe next lap. But it does feel as though the other 2 drivers have gone in a little bit too early, and that can cost them towards the end of the race, because it means they can have higher tyre wear.
Yeah, as the Aston Martin then of Owen Baldero will take up 2nd position ahead of Lucas Seracini, and Andrea Chenkovan. He's quietly just got himself back up there, hasn't he? We've not really been on board with him. He's just been doing his own thing, and he is now going past Ollie Matthews then. So this rain is going to absolutely save Andrea Chenkovan's race, isn't it? It's going to bring him back into contention, because he's going to be on the same pit stop phase as everyone else. Now, Bert Welly then wasn't catching. I've been keeping gap to leader on my screen. Wasn't catching. That is now no longer the case. Bert Welly has now pulled 1 second on that lap alone on Alexis Mason. So I think we may well be approaching the time where they all need to pull into the pits. Who are the Aston Martins then? Which one of those 2 are going to be first? Because Alexis Mason might either heard me or saw that herself and decided it's now time to box and stay ahead of Bert Welly. She needed to do that. Bert was actually looking like he could do a major undercut as he does come around the final corner, well, the second to last corner, and now the final corner. What's the gap going to be? So, yeah, Lucas Seracini then also in, Harrison's in, and Matthew Gatches. Is this going to pay off, though, for Owen Boldero and Andrew Chenko and Ollie Matthews, actually, because they are not going to be able to double stack. Realistically, one of those two is probably going to lose out.
This is the difficulty when you've got two teammates who are vaguely close together on the circuit, and that is because they will be struggling in terms of the tyre wear, and they'll be struggling in terms of not having to double stack. It's going to be a real problem for the Aston Martin teammates now as to when they come into the pits, and they'll be having a lot of conversations, probably a lot of disagreements, and it would be interesting to jump into the box. Not that that's what I'm going to do, but that's what I was very tempted to do when I saw that they'd stayed out of the pit lane. They will be double stacking, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ollie Matthews as well is going to bide his time on his way into the pit lane, just so he can lose as little time as he possibly can. And I'm sure he'll tell us about it in no uncertain terms at the end of the race, exactly how he felt about it, because of course Ollie is like a chatty man, like a bit like Alan Carr really, but for league racing. He's going to come into the pits. Owen Boldero continues on another lap.
Oh, he's not. I tell you what, Owen Baldero's done a fantastic job up till now, but this could be his undoing. Although Burt Welly then gets that penalty, so that clean streak that he's had so far, unfortunately, has come to an end. And so Luca Seracini, so obviously the driver, so Regan Harding, has just got onto the soft tyre. Now I'm going to assume that's a mistake.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Regan's great and all, but he's not going to make a soft tyre work on this wet track, surely. So I'm going to assume that's a mistake. Either it's a mistake, or he knows something we don't, and he's about to pull off a godlike race. We will find out. I lost my train of thought now. Yeah, Owen Boldero, then this could be his undoing. And actually, Andrea Chenkovan now, obviously still out on the hard tyres. Oh, wait. Andrea Chenkovan's on fresh hards. Andrea Chenkovan is on fresh hard tyres. Am I going crazy here? What am I missing here? Because there's a hard runner and a soft runner on a wet track. I am a little bit confused.
Well, what I'm thinking is that Regan Harding's made a mistake. What I'm thinking as well is potentially, and this is unlikely, and we'll probably see Andrew Chenkovan into the pit lane to revert this, but the only reason I can see him pitting onto a dry set of tyres is that it's not going to get wet enough that the rain is going to affect the circuit as in comes Owen Boldero, outstays Andrea Chenkovan. So I think potentially what's going to happen is he doesn't think it's going to be wet enough for him to justify the time loss of being on the intermediate tyres, and so he's going to go for a set of the softs or a set of the hard compound tyres even, and he's just going to see how it goes. So it's worth a gamble, especially with the way that his race has gone, but he has done all of that hard work to climb back up, so I think at that point it was almost not worth it, but he of course has made that decision to try and switch. And well, literally the only reason I can see for that happening is because he feels as though the rain is not going to get hard enough, and he feels as though once the dry line has formed, those tyres will be the better ones.
Hey, what, if Andrew's pulled off that strategy, then it just goes to show that nobody is ever going to get the better of Andrea Chenkovan in APC, because that is not just fast driving, that is good thinking and good strategy. I don't know if Andrea Chenkovan has an engineer. I believe Owen Boldero's engineer, Steven Snell, is also not present this week, so they're all on their own. So if he's pulled that off, I tell you what, I'm looking at that laptop, not the laptop, look at the Delta. He's putting Burt in. So they've obviously all, I tell you, it fluctuates a little bit, but they've obviously all just seen the rain, panicked and gone for inters. But as Regan's actually getting off the soft tyre now. No, it's not. Yeah, he is. Yeah, Regan's getting off the soft tyre, so I will actually get a little replay cam of that if I can get there before he moves so far down that I've missed it entirely. But Regan is on the intermediate tyre, so but yeah, Chenki's not. Can't actually work out the times are so fluctuating between him and Burt Welly. So yeah, we have to wait and see, because I can't keep up with those lap times. But Luca Seracini then is going to have a go on Owen Boldero. So these two are going to be maybe side by side to the end. Now that Ollie Matthews is so far up the road, he's kind of running away. It looks like he may well be the Aston that will finish ahead today. Dan Riley, unfortunately, has massively lost out in that phase, and he's going to be very disappointed about that. You know, this looked like the track where he was going to finally get some good points in, but it does not look like that is going to happen. So everyone on the inters then, except Andrea Chenkovan, I don't know how this one's going to play out.
No, I really don't. This is going to be one of those guessing games towards the end of the race, I think, to see who's going to be right on top. It's a guessing game on strategy at the moment. At the moment, Andrea Chenkovan, he's not losing, he's not gaining, but he's not losing either, and that might benefit him towards the end of the race, where drivers go, oh, actually, it is not going to be intermediate compound tyres anymore. We're going to come in, we're going to switch, and then he can really reap the rewards of being on the hardest set of dry compound tyres. We will, of course, see towards the end of the race, as we've just ticked over halfway through. We are on lap 20 of 36, and, well, we've just had a couple of moves go on. Owen Boldero, of course, on the last lap, as we saw getting through on Luca Seracini for the top 5 spots. Seracini will be a little bit disappointed with the way that his race has gone, the fact that he's not racing for the top few. I think the strategy has really played a factor today in who has lost out and who has done well, and that's one of those drivers that I think is going to have to rethink the strategy calls in future, and hope that he can get it right in future as well. But of course, we are on 20 of 36, as I say, and Chenkovan is starting to slowly catch up to the back of the V-carb, and this might, be the strategy of the season.
I tell you what, if it dries out, Andrew Chenkovan would have pulled off a god-tier strategy. That is unbelievable, and it just goes to show why he's a 3-time champion here. It's just that kind of thinking is just, yeah, it's just no one else on this track, not one other of the 12 other drivers thought to stay out on dry tyres. But yeah, I mean, if it gets wetter though, I mean, I'm looking on board and it doesn't look like it's going to dry anytime soon. But if it gets wetter, then it's not going to be a great finish for Andrew Chenkovan. Bert Welly then, massive winner from stopping that early, being the second person to pull the trigger behind Alexandru from the back, of course. Alexandru actually ahead then of Dan Riley, so that call from him has helped him get up one position. Of course, it's not for points, but can he get towards the points a bit further on? And of course, penalties might play a part when we have a look at those. But yeah, Bert Welly, big winner there, stopping as early. However, he has got the second oldest tyres out of anybody on the field. So will that come to bite him a bit later on? I mean, it's not massive. It's one lap there. No, where are we? It's one lap. It's one lap on Alexis Mason then. So, oh, sorry, it's two. It's definitely two. They both crossed the line. 2 laps on Alexis Mason then. So will that, make a big difference? It's not a lot. It's not a massive amount, but it can, it can play a part in the final laps. That 1 or 2 lap extra tyre life on that final lap might be the difference between finishing in first or second, or Andrew Chenkovan flying past the both of you.
Certainly could be the difference, and this is what the drivers are going to be stacking up between now and the end of the race. They're going to be thinking every single lap, should I pit, should I not, should I stay out, who knows. But it is raining on this circuit, and it does look like the dry line is starting to disappear, so maybe it is just getting that little bit too wet, but not if you would look at Andrew Chenkovan's point of view, where it is completely, you'd imagine, completely bone dry on a certain line, and that's the line that he's finding at the moment. It's about finding those particular lines, and that's exactly I think where he's hitting at the moment. He's hitting the right spots, and that is where he's really reaping the rewards. This really is where he's finding the benefits of having that skill, and I will call it a skill advantage, that skill advantage for himself. Andrew Chenkovan, though, into the pit lane. Interesting. What is he going to switch on to for the last 13 laps of the race? Inters. So it is going to get wetter than he thought, and that is going to be a strategy that didn't quite pay off, but it was worth a gamble, and he's now got to fly through the last 13 laps of this race. But with those tyres being so much fresher, he's going to have such a big pace advantage.
I tell you what, we're about to see Andrew Chenkovan absolutely fly up this field. We know the pace of this guy. He is on the freshest intermediate tyres of anybody on this track, and we're about to see a masterclass, I'm sure. Is it enough, though? Is it enough? Is he going to be able to get back to the lead? That is going to be the question. We know he's going to make a few positions, but is he going to make enough? Yeah, that's the question we are looking forward to seeing here. And I tell you what, it's the right person to do it, as actually Dan Riley now is going to go past Alexandru then. So that is for 12 positions. Unfortunately, not for points, but he'll be happy with that nonetheless. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where Andrew is going to end up on this one. But do you have a prediction on where you think he might go from here?
I mean, the way that this race has gone, I've got absolutely no clue. to be perfectly honest with you. I really don't know about the rest of the course of this race. We shall find out as it goes. But yeah, absolutely not a clue how the rest of this race is going to stack up, because of course I'm not the weatherman. I have no idea where these drivers are going to end up in terms of nailing their strategy, getting it wrong, and well, maybe the call was in the end that Andrea Chenkovan should have stayed out, but that's what happens when you've got those tyres, as DRS has finally been disabled. So that demonstrates, I think, that it was the right decision to make the switch onto another set of dry tyres, because it's only just become wet enough for the FIA to disable that DRS. So I think it's going to end up being a pretty good call.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. I hadn't even noticed that the DRS was still active. So, yeah, it's quite strange how everyone went in then. I mean, they must have obviously been lacking a lot of grip to make that decision, unless they just followed everybody in. You know, Alexandru did it, so they all went, no, we better have a go before Alexandru cycles his way to the lead. I mean, we've seen Burt Welly then in second position, so it was a good call to go in early, but are those tyres going to hold on now? Because this is the question. If those tyres can't hold on, Chenky now, Andrea Chenkovan is currently cycling his way up the field. You know, if he can get within a pit stop of the anyone or everyone ahead of him, he will cycle to the lead when everybody stops. So I'm sure Alexis will be looking at this very, very carefully. I'm sure she would have loved to have stopped on the lap after just to cover the undercut. But if she stopped and then, you know, Bert, Ollie, Owen, Luca and Harrison didn't, then that would have been a poor strategy call, assuming they made it to the end. So, I mean, we've got, 12 laps left to go. There is so much that can still happen. And I can't predict where anybody's going to finish at this rate.
Marriage number 3 of the season.
Who did I say?
Marriage number 3 of the season, Alexandru Vickel and Andrea Chenkovan, aka Alexandru Chenkovan. But yeah, it's looking like a very good, very, very spicy end to the race. As you said earlier, it was going to be spicy, and indeed that's what we've had. For different reasons, I think, than we would have been predicting, because the fact that the tyres are so very different for everybody throughout this field. If we have another look at it, as Burt Welly into the pit lane again, I knew they were going to have to pit at least one more time on these intermediate tyres, and that looks like it's going to be about now for Burt Welly. But they've got 10 laps to go. It is 2-lap-old inters for Chenkovan, and he's not too far off of the group of the race leaders. So the gap right now is going to be, as Harrison Robinson comes in as well, it's 23.7 seconds. The pit time is going to be about 19 seconds, as Burt Welly's going to be out just ahead. And, well, that's wet tyres fitted on Harrison Robinson's car.
Yeah, indeed. That's the right reaction to that, I would say. I'm interested to see. This could be a good... These strategy calls have been all over the place. Harrison, of course, being another driver who's been very, very unlucky so far this season. He has had incidents for the first 2 seasons that weren't his fault. And I mean that as Connor Stewart Woodard goes on to the medium tyres. So this is unbelievable what I'm seeing right now. So both Williams then have the wet tyres. As I was saying about Harrison, has had incidents in the first 2 races which weren't his fault, and that's not my opinion. That is the opinion of the stewards, who have given penalties for the drivers who have come together with Harrison. So he's hoping to have a really good result here. Is this the race who can have a good result? I mean, I don't know. We've got Connor Stewart on the mediums, Harrison and Regan on the wet, Dan Riley also on the wet. Now, Dan Riley is not somebody who often makes the wrong call on tyre, from my memory. So if Dan Riley's going onto the wet tyre, this could be it. Now, as you said as well, Burt Welly did come out ahead of Andrea Chenkovan, and that might be very important. And one thing we will have seen in replay right now, if you're watching this post live, he did hit the wall on the pit exit, managed to just keep his wing intact. I have no idea how his front wing is still intact with the hit that he did. It was quite a hit. So, yeah, lucky there. But can he stay ahead of Andrea Chenkovan? That's going to be the question. Now, I'm glad the gaps are up on screen, because I want to see the gaps between the wet tyre runners of Luca Seracini as well, and Matthew Gatchis now, and the intermediate runners ahead. But I tell you what, this has been crazy. And Connor Stewart Woodard then clearly made a mistake, because he's now putting into the pit lane to get rid of those medium tyres. So no idea how he's managed that. But this is going to be a very spicy one all the way to the end.
It certainly is. Connor Stewart Woodard is going to cost himself points in that decision, and that's going to drop him all the way down, almost to the very back of the field. I think he's going to be lapped, indeed he is. He's going to be lapped by both Alexis Mason in the lead and Ollie Matthews in P2, as into the pits comes Owen Boldero for another time in this race, and it is very much make it up as you go along stuff for all of these drivers. Boldero then is going to come out of the pits, where he's going to come out in behind what looks like to be this little couple of gaggle of drivers. Bert Welly and Andrea Chenkovan for third place. They're the closest together on the circuit. And Owen Boldero just coming out of the pits not too far off. He's going to be 8.5, but with the fresher tyre, that's not going to feel like 8.5 seconds worth of gap. It feels as though he's going to be able to catch up pretty quickly, all things considered, and well, he's going to try and fight it out for this podium, duke it out for these positions come the end of the race, which of course is creeping up on us. Lap 28 of 36. So all of these drivers are going to be starting to think about this a little bit more. They're going to be starting to maybe think about making one final stop, or maybe thinking about gambling and not doing one at all.
I tell you what, if Alexis Mason needs to stop, she's left it too late. Her and Ollie Matthews, they've left it too late. So if I'm hoping their tyres are going to hold on for their sake, because if they need to stop at any stage, they will 100% fall behind Bert, Andrea, possibly even Owen Boldero if he keeps it up at this pace. So that I have no idea what their tyre life is. We can't see that as commentators. So that's going to be a very interesting one. But the big question is Andrea Chenkovan going to get ahead of Bert Welly? A quick update then on the penalty situation. So it's only 3 seconds for Bert at the moment. So he's doing well to hold on, but he will fall off the podium if it stays the way it is. Owen Boldero also 3 seconds. That's cancelled out by Luca Serafini, who's also in 3 seconds. So there will be no change for position there. Harrison then 6 seconds, although 15 seconds ahead of Matthew Gatchis, so I don't think he's to be too nervous about that one. 3 seconds for Matthew Gatchis, 6 seconds for Regan, 6 seconds for, have I forgotten his name? Brian Moore. He's going to kill me for forgetting his name there. Connor Stewart Woodard then has the most penalties with 9 seconds, and we have Alexandru Vickel within 5 seconds. He has a 3-second penalty, so he needs to stay within 6 seconds to get that position off Connor Stewart Woodard at the line, and then Dan Riley rounds us off with 6 seconds. I tell you what, Daniel Riley, we saw the pace early on. He had one incident, fell to the back and was not able to come back. I can't explain that. I actually can't explain where that massive pace drop off has gone. He is now lapped. I'm at a loss as to, because we saw the pace. I don't know where that pace, how that pace disappeared so quickly. But yeah, an interesting one, and one that will need to be unpicked.
I think it just comes down to a case of lost confidence for Daniel Riley, where he's just, he's had a couple of moments, had a couple of incidents, and from then it's just really not clicked for him. He's going for a move now on Alexander Vickel, and this will be for the Wooden Spoon, 12th place, and it's later on the brakes for Dan Riley. He's on the better tyres for this condition, and he is in a better position right now as he moves up just ahead of Vickel and into 12th spot. He's still not going to make it within inside the top 10, you wouldn't imagine, throughout the rest of the race, but fair play to him for keeping going, not giving up and retiring, as many esports drivers especially would be doing. Nobody here though at APC, nobody would do that, as Regan 3-second time penalty added to his time. Still, the only penaltyless drivers in this race are going to be the top 2 and Andrea Chenkovan as well, and that may well just be the flat out top 3 in just a couple of moments time.
Yeah, as you say, Dan Riley is always, as I'm going to assume that, I believe that's Brian Moore getting out of the way there. Dan Riley always takes it to the line. It doesn't matter how hard of a race he has, he always takes it to the line. I think I mentioned that probably in the last 2 races, because he's had really bad races, but he always takes it to the line. As you say, he doesn't. Some drivers do, unfortunately, have a bad race and go, right, I'm off, as we've seen in the first 2 races here. So, yeah, good to see. Harrison now on the back of Lucas Aracini, so he'll be hoping to get a better result than he's had so far this season, of course. Bert Welly is not doing enough. Or Andrea Chenkovan. I mean, I don't know if this is Andrea Chenkovan being stuck behind Bert Welly may be the reason why he's not doing enough, but neither of these two are doing enough to catch the leaders. They are catching, but not at a fast enough pace. It looks to me like Alexis Mason and Ollie Matthews, their tyres may well hold on to the end. And I tell you what, that is going to be a stellar job from the two of them if they do. So, yeah, looking forward to see where this one goes. I mean, we are getting very close to the end now. One more lap and the safety car will not happen, as the game does not give safety cars in the last 3 laps. So it'll be green flag running to the very end.
It certainly will be green flag running all the way to the line. And we will, of course, see who's going to come out on top. It looks like it's going to be the way it is at the moment, but of course some drivers may still fight for pride. This will be one of those fights. Harrison Robinson having a scrap with Lucas Erracini. This is for 6th place on the field, and of course with no DRS to help him, he's got to just have the overspeed as Harrison Robinson to try and make his way through, and he's on the inside line as they head into the first corner, but not quite close enough to really start to think about making a move. He may well do so on the exit of turn 1. He's going to try and find any sort of advantage that he's able to pick up, and one of those advantages will be the exits on the corners, because he just looks like he's got so much more speed through there, and he pulls to the inside line of turn number 3. Can he make this one stick? It's going to be close between the two, just a little bit potentially of contact, but in the end it will be Harrison Robinson who's going to make his way through. 6th place is his. Lucas Erracini is going to try and fight back on the outside line though, and this one will continue on for another couple of corners, I think. Harrison Robinson inside line, and Seracini's just going to run out of road onto the gravel. Is the V-carb going to go? And, well, that's a little bit of miscommunication from the two. I think Harrison Robinson thought the move was done and dusted, and Lucas Erracini was still trying to keep a tyre in.
Indeed, it looks like Harrison gave that back then, so that's great sportsmanship. We love to see that sort of thing in league racing. So yeah, gave it back, although gave it back a bit too well, because now Luke has actually pulled a bit of a gap, so he needs to kind of close that back up. I have had a look just now while you were speaking. Actually, we'll wait to see if Chenky is going to come past Burt. It looks like this is going to be a formality for Andrea Chenkovan. And he pulls side by side then through turn 3. But when he's going to hold it around the outside, then he's not looking to give this one up too easily. However, who's going to have the better traction off the line? It looks like it's actually going to be Burt then, as Andrea Chenkovan loses the rear end off the corner there. But who's going to have it going into the next corner here? Burt, well, he's going to hold it. Andrew's not going to do anything crazy here. There is still 4 more laps to go, and there'll be plenty more opportunities for Chenky to take it. Of course, he doesn't actually need to look at a penalty situation, but there's no guarantee that Andrew won't get a penalty for himself. I've had a quick look on Alexis on her stream. I'm not going to say it on here just in case anybody's listening. I don't want to ruin the strategy, but I've seen the tyre life, and I know now if Alexis is going to make it to the end or not. So we're going to leave that one as a surprise, but I know. But we say that as Harrison then has got back past Lucas Erracini. I say that, and they're actually side by side then. So if you're watching on the post stream, you've obviously seen that on the replay. But yeah, side by side through a few corners there, through the middle sector. But Harrison has now finally got that move done, and it felt like that one was coming for a little while. And Lucas Erracini tucks it behind. Maybe we'll try and come back, but as we've seen from Andrea Chenkovan on the back of Burt, being behind someone doesn't mean you're going to get past them. And I believe they are both on the wet tyres as well. So it's hard to say which tyre was the right call here. They both seem to be doing a good job.
Yeah, they certainly do. And Andrea Chenkovan, who of course made that gamble onto the dry compound tyre, it's fair to say, still don't know whether that was the right call either. We were hoping to get an answer a lot earlier than this, but it's going to be, I mean, we're not going to find out now because of course he's not on those tyres anymore. But he doesn't seem to have lost anything by it, but he also doesn't seem to have gained anything by it. So it just looks like a neutral decision, something that we just go, meh, yeah, it was fine. It wasn't necessarily, it was a gamble, but one that didn't really have any results either way for Andrea Chenkovan, and so he's going to come home, I think, in that 4th place. But of course, with the penalty for Burt Welly, he's going to come home on the podium once again. Not a victory, and I get to cut my hair. Not that I'm going to do so for a while, I'd imagine, but he gets to, he will get to come home on the podium. 3-second time penalty for Matthew Gatches for himself. No, that's not Matthew Gatches, that's his teammate Alexander Vikol, down in 13th spot. Lap 35 of 36, and it looks as though it's going to go the way of the Ferrari of Alexis Mason. The way that her pace has been throughout the race has just been consistently strong, and well, she's going to reap the rewards, I think, come the end of this race. Of course, I've got no idea what the tyre wear is, because you might have checked it out. I didn't. I stayed firmly on this stream. I stayed firmly fair to the viewers, and I'm living the viewer experience right now, not knowing what is going to happen with the tyre wear. I'm expecting that now it's going to be going to the end of the race, but of course, who knows? Well, but who knows really what the answer to that query is going to be. We'll find that out as we head on to the final lap.
Yeah, I had to know. I just had to know. And that's the beauty of co-coms. You know, I've done league comms, I've done co-coms, and the one good thing about co-coms is it gives you opportunity to do other things and look at what other things people are doing, have chats with people who have maybe had a crash and find out what's going on. So, yeah. Speaking of crashes, none have happened. Well, none terminal at least. All 13 drivers then have started the I feel like they will start the final lap very shortly, and. Yeah, I mean, we know now those tyres are going to go to the end. But what I will say is they are not going to be pretty. They were 3 laps ago at 50%. So they, she's going to be struggling on those a little bit. But it doesn't really matter because she's been able to hold the gap on Ollie Matthews. And Ollie Matthews, in turn, has been able to hold the gap on Bert Welly. So with Alexis and Ollie both not having penalties in this race, being 2 of only 3 people to do so, they are going to keep those positions. So, I'm not going to call anything just yet because that I'm not getting a commentator's cursed. No, sorry, I'm not getting accused of commentator's curse, but looks like some good results incoming for some of our drivers there. But I'm going to leave it until the checkered flag, which is going to happen shortly.
Certainly is. Just 2 corners to go for Alexis Mason to seal this victory, and what a victory it'll be. Nailed the strategy, nailed everything else, nailed the tyre management, and it's going to be a thoroughly earned one for Alexis Mason to come home for her first APC victory, and she comes across the line sideways to celebrate a very, very backwards race. Ollie Matthews in second place, 12 seconds off, but a thoroughly deserved podium for himself, as well as Brian Moore will come home in the final points paying position. Andrea Chenkovan, after a strong comeback, will come and finish on the podium. 5th place for Owen Boldero, as he is going to have a new teammate in Ollie Matthews alongside him in the Aston Martin. It's a good start for those two. Bert Welly 4th place for the V-Carb and 7th for Luca Seracini, although with the penalties I'm not quite sure who's going to end up where. It looks as though it's going to be Luca Seracini is going to try and stay within 3 seconds, because in that case he's going to be able to pick up 2 more points, and indeed by the checkered flag he's able to stick within range. 0.176 was the difference between Seracini and Robinson in the end, and comes home in 6th and picks up 20 points for the team if you combine the 2 totals. Ollie Matthews and Owen Boldero, though, they've picked up 28, so a strong performance from themselves. And of course the Ferrari team 1st and 3rd, very, very good from themselves. Regan Harding, the final finisher, but a dramatic up and down and sideways race has ended with a brand new victor.
There you go then. I felt it. I felt like it was going to happen, and I was proven absolutely right there. So great show from Alexis Mason. Of course, P2 last week also finished P2, funnily enough, in a W1. So a bit of a streak that was happening last week for her. But she also did win a league race elsewhere. I can't actually remember which one it is, and I wouldn't say even if I did. But yeah, should be very happy then to pick up the win. So fast driver. Aston Martin are just going to be probably quite... upset's probably not the word, but they're not going to be too happy that Alexis filled in this week, because they would be hoping to capitalise on Ethan Shackleton not being here. Whilst we're looking at a car on screen, what's happening there?
We just decided to sit in Matthew Gatcher's car, I think, at the end of the race. Why not? But yeah, that is going to be the end of the race, and that will be Alexis Mason taking the victory. 2nd place for Ollie Matthews, Andrea Chenkovan rounding out that podium to make it a Ferrari 1-3. 4th place for Bert Welly, 5th for Owen Boldero, and 6th for Luca Seracini, with the Ferraris, the Aston Martins and the V-Carbs making for a fascinating championship battle. Williams in 7th place, and that is of course of Harrison Robinson. His teammate Regan Harding in 9th place, with Matthew Gatcher splitting the 2, and Brian Moore rounding out the top 10, with Dan Riley, Connor Stewart-Woodard and Alexander Vick rounding ourselves out for this field. But that'll be the 13 drivers that took to the circuit this evening, and we'll get the opportunity to speak to some of them now. Of course, we will get the opportunity to first speak to the drivers that finished just a little bit off the podium. We will have a conversation with our race victor, Alexis Mason, if she sticks around, later on. But we are going to be starting the post-race celebrations with Owen Boldero, who is hopefully we're going to be able to speak to if he can hear us.
I can hear you. Yes, hello.
Wonderful. Just, I mean, talk to us about that race, because it was a whirlwind of emotions and a whirlwind of weather as well.
So I think that P4, P5 is going to be my permanent living place in APC this season. I've had 1 4th and 2 P5s. So in terms of qualifying was all right. I hadn't done any wet preparation. I literally did about 10 laps of prep due to sort of limited time. So I hadn't done any wet prep. So I was like, oh, it's wet. So it was a little bit more difficult, but I was happy with the P4, P5. And then the start of the race, I started on hards because my tyre wear at Austria, maybe it's just a skill issue or maybe it's just, I don't know, but my tyre wear at Austria is pretty strong. So I started on the hards to make sure I could go until the rain hit. And I mean, we had some skirmishes. I let Dan Riley back through because I kind of forced him off a little bit whilst trying to play some DRS games. So I literally just let off the throttle, went to the right, let off, and just let him and Ollie go past. But overall was a pretty mental battle with him, which eventually me and Ollie managed to win. I think me and him being together in that first stint and being in a voice chat together was really important because we were able to work together much better. And then once we got past Dan, we really pushed. We pushed up to the RBs who were flying, but we just found a really nice rhythm. I used that chance behind Ollie to recharge my battery, which had been quite drained in the battle with Dan. And then as it started raining, I found a little bit of pace on the hards. The hards just felt really good. So I said to Ollie, "Can I go?" And he went, "Yeah." He made the mistake. He let me go. And then I was putting Bert under pressure. He pitted, and then Luca, I found it was really easy to get past him. I think the hards at that point of the race were just the better tire. They still felt really good when I came in. Of course, it was a little bit wetter, so they didn't feel like incredible, but they still felt they had a little bit of life in them. But then, yeah, in the wet, I had to stop twice on inters because I wouldn't have made inters go to the end from lap 17. I knew I couldn't from about lap 21. So I stopped on lap 27. I saw Luca go onto the full wets. So it was like, that's not the right choice. Full wets are not good in F1 25 at all. And then from there, it was just kind of no man's land for the rest of the race. It was just about bringing it home, keeping it on track. So yeah, I mean, really good team points overall. I've got Ollie as my teammate now, which is going to be really nice. But yeah, I think overall was a pretty decent race, and I think P4, P5 is just going to be my permanent resting place in APC.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, you mentioned your teammate a couple of times throughout that. Is that a factor that's going to play in the season, you think, and when you start to think of the constructors title?
Constructors title might be difficult. Ferrari obviously look quite good. Chenky still as quick as always, and then with people like Alexis subbing in for Shaq occasionally, I think it's going to be difficult. RB look really quick as well, so I think it's going to be a very, very tight battle. And I'd say it's maybe a little early to be thinking about the constructors. I think that's something we'll be properly thinking about midway through the season.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And of course, we're on round number 3 so far, but early signs as well we mentioned. But yeah, hopefully a good partnership between yourself and your teammate. That's all from me. Have you got anything, Carl?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is what made you? I don't know if you probably just went with everyone else, or what made you decide to go on the intermediate tires? I think it's going to be a question I'm going to ask a lot of people right now because obviously Andrew Jenkovan stayed on the dry or put fresh dries on, and the safety car hadn't yet been deployed. So not safety car, sorry, the DRS hadn't been disabled. So I'm really confusing everyone here. Hadn't been disabled. So yeah, was it just too wet on track? Were you not able to keep the traction down? Like what really made that decision to put those tires on?
So for me, it was just a matter of confidence. I don't think I had the confidence in my driving to go on to another set of dry tires. I mean, Andrea Chenkovan is a machine. The guy's a demon. I mean, hitting that pace in those conditions on dry tires versus new inters is insane. I mean, me and Ollie actually did talk about it during the race, that it was just stupid that we weren't gaining. Yeah. So I mean, the long of the short is I'm not Andrea Chenkovan, unfortunately, in terms of pace and skill. So it was just a matter of confidence.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, yeah, it's confusing for us to watch. We couldn't really work out. Everyone went onto different tires, and we absolutely could not work out what was happening. So, yeah, I mean, better luck next week. Yeah, you may get a higher position than fifth. But thank you for jumping in the booth for an interview.
Thank you very much. See you guys next week.
Yep, see you next week indeed, and that'll be Owen Boldero, our driver, who ended up in 5th place in that race. We're going to take a dip slightly further down the order, and we're going to get an opportunity to speak to a couple of the drivers who finished towards the lower echelons of the points, including the driver who finished right down the bottom, picking up a singular point. It will, of course, be Brian Moore. And Brian, I mean, how was that race from your perspective? An absolutely mad one strategically.
Chaos. When I picked for the Inter's start, it felt like it was Inter's weather, but the rears were just lighting up too much. There's far too much heat in the rear, so I had to go in. I think a few other people possibly struggled from that as well. I've seen a lot of people go into the wets late on, but I didn't think wets were the tyre. And I mean, looking back, they perhaps were, but I was in no man's land, so I wasn't really going to catch the cars ahead. So I just sat back and just let the race play out and see what happened.
That's absolutely fair enough. And well, when you did that, were you hoping for just a P10, or was there any higher hopes?
No, at that point I was just hoping for one of us, either myself or Connor, to get in the points, just get some points on the board for Sauber, keep points ticking over. I sound like I'm talking over rugby there, keep the points ticking over, but just keep points ticking over every week we can and try to get something out of this season for Sauber. So it was just a case of just get whatever points we could take.
Yeah, of course, ultimately the goal is more points for the team. And, well, I mean, early stages of the season, it's looking like the Saubers are going to be in quite a hard fight with the Haas cars and the Williams. How's it looking from an insider perspective into the scrap?
I think Williams have good pace this season, that's for sure, but I think Haas, it's going to be very track dependent for Haas on which one of us sort of takes a swing. But I think when Williams show up, they do have pace. I think they are also track dependent, so I think the three teams is going to be very track dependent. The more tracks drivers are good at for where we're going to be picking up the points, and as well as that, it's a case of can we keep out of incidents that could cost us points, and if we can, then that's going to be important as well throughout the season.
Yeah, it can be tricky to avoid incidents in the lower midfield. That's all from me. Carl, have you got anything?
Yeah, it's very interesting you say that, Brian, because you are actually closer to Williams than you are to Haas in the points. As it stands, that's not updated, obviously, post-race. So be interesting to see. At the moment, you're all basically in the same place. Not far off Mercedes. Mercedes is perhaps someone to keep in mind because, I mean, as we saw today, Aria Stone didn't show up. So it may well show up next week. But and Dan had a very poor race as well. So I think, looking at the standings of when this all gets tied up post this race, you are probably going to be you will be one step closer to Mercedes. So perhaps another one to keep an eye on. But have you two discussed, as in you and Connor discussed, any sort of strategies going forward? Anything you might do differently to take it to Williams and Haas? Because you guys have really got the pace. It's just you've just not been able to put a good race together so far.
Not really. I think we're just taking it race by race, seeing sort of who's the faster on track each race, working around that. Like at one point today, Connor was the faster car. After I made a few mistakes and just sort of lost my rhythm, then he made a mistake in the pit stops in his second pit stop. He made a mistake there. And he made a mistake there, which he only realised once he exited the pits. So yeah, I think it's a case of just trying to do what we can. So start the race, we're both trying to sort of make it sort of switch over, make attacks on the cars ahead to try and make moves. I think it's going to be a lot of that this season, just when we're near each other on track and near other cars, trying to work together just to try to get the points.
Yeah, I mean, each to their own, but I feel like I would have just owned it coming out in the mediums. Just go, you know what? I'm on them now. I'm taking these to the end. But yeah, no, that was very unfortunate. It's a shame that he never turns up for an interview because I would love to have asked him about that. But it's very secretive, that kind of Stuart Woodard. Very secretive. So, but yeah, that's all for me. Thank you very much for your time as always, Brian.
Thank you.
And of course, that will be Brian Moore, who finished just inside the points, and just ahead of him will be, as I almost dragged the wrong person, almost dragged Carl out of the comms box. I'm going to drag Regan Harding in, and well, of course, it wasn't necessarily the most easy race to watch in terms of strategies, but Regan, how was it from your perspective?
Would you like to take a guess of how it was? No.
Without swearing, please.
Well, I was going to say
absolutely dreadful. Look, I race for another league, and I'm Ferrari team principal, so I thought I'd pull off a Ferrari masterclass, strategic masterclass. No, all that happened was, can you hear?
Yeah,
you guys hear me? Yeah, okay.
That sounds like you're in a church. It's something's echoing in the background, but we can hear you.
Okay, right. Okay, hang on. Let me move room. Literally, all it came down to was, first of all, my wheel disconnected, so I couldn't upshift, so I crashed into the wall in qualifying. And then my girlfriend came in, and I usually play with subtitles on, but I wanted to make the game more immersive, so I turned them off, and I turned having the racing line. It's only on corners now, so she came in, and I turned my mic down, and I just heard the words "box, box," and I looked at my wheels. And everyone else was boxing as well. And I looked at my my tires, and they were on like 75% wear. So I thought he had said, tire wear is high, and it's raining. Come in and box. So I didn't check it. And then, of course, the second I come into the pits, I said, "Oh, let me have a quick look," and I'm on softs. So yeah, it wasn't great.
No, it certainly didn't seem so. I will say I've commentated on league racing for pretty much bang on 2 years now. It's 1 year and 58 weeks, or 50 weeks even. I've raced in leagues for 5 years. I've never heard the subtitles being off as part of an excuse for why you didn't do particularly well. But each to their own.
I couldn't hear.
Each to their own, but no, it certainly didn't seem to be ideal, and well, you weren't the only driver in the race to make a mistake like that one. But I mean, it's just a race that you're looking to put behind you, I guess, as it starts to become a thing yourselves in the Williams against the Haas against the Kick Saubers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, I'm trying to get the time penalties. Then I'm sure Kyle jinxed me again, like he always does. I had 9 seconds at the end, but 3 seconds were in the dry, and then I just got the other 6 in the wet. I was losing the car so much. Yeah, for sure, irritating. At the beginning of the race, I said I'll sit back and just kind of observe and try and make up a few positions, which I did do. I went from 13th or whatever to, I think the highest I got was 6th, and my teammate behind had a 6-second time penalty, and he was something like 12 seconds behind. So I thought, okay, 6th is guaranteed, maybe possibly P5 here. And my goal at every race is P5. If I can get it, especially with them guys, if I can get to P5, I'm very happy. But then I went in on softs. And to be fair, the softs actually weren't bad, but I knew they were just going to deteriorate, so I just came in the next lap and pitted. And then I was trying to catch one of the Haas's, and I was catching him. And then I just completely lost a load of time then again, and he kind of got away from me. I mean, I had 6 seconds at that stage, and he had 3. I think he was something like 8 seconds ahead of me, and I got it down to 5, and then I had like a massive snap, and it went back up to 8 seconds again. So frustrating for sure. Definitely my fault that I finished in P9 or P8, whatever it was, instead of possibly P5, definitely P6 anyway. But sure, look, I mean, it's points on the board as well. My teammate was P6, so it's something, I guess. I still finished inside the points, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, it was certainly a good finish in the end, if it wasn't a good chase. But I mean, that's all from me. Carl, have you got anything?
That's a sentence I've heard before, right? Rico, you'll be pleased to know, actually, and Joseph will absolutely back me up here. I did not even mention your penalties this time because you know what? If this doesn't prove that it's nothing to do with me, then nothing will. But
So it's all to do with you, nothing to do with my driver.
no, but you obviously, you've improved, and obviously you mentioned obviously our partner league, WRL, which you're allowed to mention their name because they need partner with us.
Okay,
But I appreciate that you didn't. You didn't know. You didn't know. But so that's yeah, that's really good.
of course.
Yeah, you're obviously teammates with Andrew Chenkovan over there. Have you ever at any point thought to maybe get in touch with him and see if he can give you some of that Andrew Chenkovan magic? If he can give you some tips on how he manages to win all the time? Well, apart from today, of course. Yeah, is there ever a conversation you've ever had?
I'm not even trying to sound rude here, but I actually don't think I've ever seen him win. I mean, we've been pretty close on pace, so no, I I haven't, but maybe I should. Um, I haven't spoken to him myself, but yeah, we seem to be pretty even on pace. So if he's any, I'm always up for advice. I mean, I talked to Chenkai a good bit, Senki a good bit. So yeah, absolutely, I'd be down for it. I do enjoy playing the team game. I think I'd be better off, but obviously last week I had technical difficulties. This week I started P13 and then I ruined my own race. So look, it's done now, so I'm just going to try to hold my head up high and just move on to the next one. And yes, maybe discuss with him strategies or stuff like that, or play the team game.
Yeah, speaking of playing the team game, obviously you're both quite similar, yourself and Harrison, similar on pace a lot of the time. Obviously, strategies tend to play out differently, but you do tend to find yourselves together in every race, or the races that you don't have technical issues. If technical difficulties that cause you to not actually be able to start the race. But yeah, do you think at the moment, obviously you're quite harmonious, you kind of look after each other, let each other pass. Do you think towards the end of the season, if the point gap is as close as it is at the moment, that there could be an inter-team rivalry at some point?
I think if it comes down to the drivers, yes, I do. But if it comes down to the constructors, probably not. No, I mean, even like when Shanghai went off early in the race and he was getting back past me, I kind of let him by. I know when to pick my fights and whatnot. So I think if it came to a constructors, yes, because drivers, sorry, yes, because you can't let your teammate beat you. You just can't. Unless you're a partner with Senko in a Ferrari and WERL, then you get a pass. But otherwise, you don't let them beat you. So yes, constructors is fine. Drivers, yeah, if it comes head to head, well then it comes to that, and I won't be very forgiving or letting them by so easy.
That sounds like a spicy one, Joseph. But yeah, Regan, thanks very much for your time as always, and thanks. I'm glad you managed to actually start this one, and we're looking forward to seeing you next week.
Yes, in a bit. Thank you.
Take care.
That is Regan Harding, who's hoping not to be touched by any of the Andrea Chenkovan magic. That's a quote, or a pseudo quote, by the way. We're going to head further up the order, and we're going to head finally onto the podium. Of course, we've spoken to drivers further down the order, and we're going to get the opportunity to speak to the man who, of course, worked together with Owen Boldero early on in the stint and early on in the race as well. Of course, you're both brand new teammates. How is life in Aston Martin?
Well, it's good to be back because I took over in Aston Martin at the end of last season, and with a short stint at McLaren that didn't work back, and it feels like home, and to get another P2 is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it was a wild and wacky one, so it's almost even better that you were able to take it home in that P2. So just talk us through it.
I thought starting on the mediums was quite a risk. I wasn't quite sure when the rain was going to come, but I was running a dry setup with very low wings. I felt quite strong in the dry, had good pace, some great battles. Me and Owen worked really well together. We were comms with each other, so we knew we were discussing what we were doing and strategy and tyre wear and just kind of working together. And we I think at one point we were 3.5 seconds back from the 2 V carbs, and we managed to just work together to drag us both into that fight and to get this great result for both of us of a P2 and a P5.
Yeah, it's very good, and of course, with you two coming together now to try and challenge for that constructors championship, Ferrari hold that post at the moment. Do you think that you'll be able to challenge with them?
I think this race might have been the turning point to say no, with the fact that Alexis is rapid and reserved for Ferrari, which is just going to leapfrog their progress ahead of us. So I think it's more, can we secure P2 over other strong lineups such as VCAR.
Yeah, it should be very good. And of course, your old team, Aston Martin, are still, or your old team are still technically up there in the fight with 25 points.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you say as well, there's some very, very strong lineups indeed. The VCARB lineup was ahead of you pre-race, and I don't think they are anymore. I think actually, now that I do the maths in my head right now, I think they might be 1 point ahead of you still. So, of course, we will see what happens across the course of the rest of the season. But yeah, I mean, Austria was a very, very good one for yourself indeed. And next time out, we'll be heading to the United Kingdom, your home race. How are you feeling about it?
Despite the fact it's my home race, it might be one of my weaker tracks. I cannot get to grips with it at all, and I'm just gonna send it. I know my setup there is quite extreme, so I'm hoping that's gonna come into my favor and I can conjure up something. But if I can aim for top fives all season, which I'm currently sticking to, I think I'll be pretty happy.
Set up extreme by what metric? I'm curious.
Monza level wings.
Ah,
Ish.
okay.
So take of that what you will, but I'll do some fiddling around with it, but the base that I have is that level of extreme.
Wow, I look forward to seeing that one next time out. And well, that's all from me. Have you got anything?
Just quickly on the move to Aston Martin, of course, that's an exciting lineup yourself and Owen there. I'm looking forward to seeing where that could go. Obviously, it's unfortunate for you guys today that Alexis was in that Ferrari, because of Ethan not being here, prime opportunity to try and take back that top spot. So, but yeah, I mean, are you guys feeling confident that you might be able to fight for the title? Owen was in here obviously not too long ago. He's not feeling very confident, but Ollie Matthews, ever the optimist. Tell me you're feeling a bit more optimistic.
I think, I mean, today proved that Schenkervan can make mistakes, which me and Owen had this discussion. Neither of us are really sure that he's human. So the fact that he can make mistakes is a good sign, and a good sign for us that we can close gaps, but it'll just be consistently coming high up, even if Jenkinvan's winning and Ethan Shackleton's doing a little worse, and then just closing that gap, because we're only in round 3. There's another 11 to go, and if we can just close little by little, I think maybe it's not over yet, because we're only kind of just under a quarter of the way through the season.
Yeah, and as you say, Ethan Shackleton, 2 points to his name so far. So not a great start for Ethan. Of course, we've seen Ethan's pace. He may well get his mojo back, and then you may well have to fight him hard on track. But speaking of fighting hard on track, though, I did just want to quickly ask about that incident with Dan Riley. I mean, was that orchestrated between the two of you? It was very odd. Like, it was still a bit of a kerfuffle. I didn't even know who was ahead of who. It was so confusing at the time that I handed it back to Joseph, because I don't even know what's going on here. And then you both ended up ahead. So it was all, I couldn't work out if it was orchestrated or if it was just a bit of a kerfuffle.
Yeah, I think it was quite a bit of a kerfuffle, because I was sat behind the two of them, and Owen pushed Dan a little bit off track and realised his mistake and let him by. But I got a cracking exit out of turn 3 and got past both of them. Dan tried to resend it on me, and we made a bit of contact, and that kind of bumped him a bit into Owen as well. And I think he lost the most kind of speed out of that going. And we managed to just get ahead of both get ahead of him and quickly run away. I don't know whether he got damaged from that or not. But me and Owen escaped unscathed.
Yeah, it was good running. So yeah, you guys were doing very well today. Obviously, the strategy played a part in everyone's race today, but that was good going. Yeah. But thanks very much. Congrats, obviously, on
thank you.
Finishing. I actually, off the top of my head, you finished P3. Where did you finish? I completely forgot.
I finished second.
Yes, that was it. You finished second. So two So you're working your way up to the win. That was what, fifth, third, second. So next week's the win, surely, right? So we'll look forward to seeing race 4 when you finally get that win. And thank you for coming to speak to us, Ollie.
See you next week.
See ya.
That was Ollie Matthews, who's excited to see that the Aston Martin lineup are coming on Andrew Chenkovan and Regan Harding, hoping to avoid his magic as well. It's all about Andrew Chenkovan, but he was not the driver who took the race victory. It was, in fact, Alexis Mason, and we get the opportunity to speak to Alexis right now. And I mean, it's a very, very good victory for yourself, especially with the last minute call up and the last minute availability. But just talk us through that mad Austria race.
Well, my target for that one was get P1. I saw Chenky was starting on the hard, so I knew if I can get a good start, I can overtake him through the middle sector. Like, at no point was I planning to overtake him in sector 1, because I was running a wet setup, like completely wet. So sector 2 was going to be my best place with turn 6, 7. Wish I never said that now. And then it was just nursing tyres. And then I got a puncture, which was not fun. It was I only had it for a corner though, a box. And then when on the inters, tyre wear was initially crazy. And then as soon as it got like proper wet, tyre wear was pretty much negligible.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I mean, it was. I didn't know that you'd had a puncture, so there we go. That's how much you managed to avoid it. When was this?
I got it. If you look on my stream, because I did stream, literally lap 15, as I was going around turn, is it 9, the one you pit on?
Yes, I believe so. I think it is at least turn number 9 that you're pitting in, but I genuinely didn't spot that. Hopefully that was caught on the replay, question mark.
Turn 9. I actually got a puncture there. So
I don't believe it was caught on the replay. I didn't see it, but when I go back through the footage, I will have a look.
But yeah, I did get a puncture, and I only had it literally through turn 9 because I peeled into pits, because if I go around again, it's just dangerous. I've never driven on a puncture in this game, so I have no clue what to expect.
One thing I can tell you is that
frankly, I don't think you go and practice with a puncture.
No, not necessarily. But one thing I can tell you is that it certainly spits you out of pretty much every single corner. So it's impressive you were able to hold on to it. But I mean, that was what it was. Of course, filling in very last minute, and it ended up working pretty okay for yourself. And I mean, heading into it, how confident were you around the Austria circuit specifically?
Austria is my strongest track. I'm most consistent around it, and I know where to push, and I know all like the call them esports lines. So I was using them today.
That's fair enough. Of course, I've done enough. I've done enough esports commentary to know.
With no practice. Literally, my first lap was the first lap of quali.
Fair enough, and the fact you're able to throw it up at the top, quite impressive stuff. I've done enough esports commentary to know the lines. I'm not able to execute them. It's a fair play to yourself. That's all from me. Have you got anything, Kyle?
I mean, yeah. So firstly, we did a little prediction at the beginning, and I did say, I was like, Alexis has a determination. Alexis is looking to win this one, and I am predicting that Alexis will get this one. So thank you for making me right there. What did you think then when Chenky obviously faced the wrong way? I don't believe we got it on stream. What was going through your head? Because I think up to that point you must have been thinking that, damn, I'm gonna have to fight Andrea right to the very, very end of this race to keep this position. Was there a relief? Was there a shock? Like, what was going through your mind when Andrea started falling back through the order?
So last week in my post-race interview, I said there is no not push against Chenky, Andrea, I think. And when I saw that happen, I was in a rather say a shock, because I was like, I'm going to have to fight this to the end, because again, you cannot not push against him. He's too fast to not do that. You have to go flat out. And when that happened, I was surprised, and for once in my life, I actually used the engineer on teammate status. I want to see how far behind him, but I wanted to see how far behind me he was every lap. So I was abusing the in-game engineer for that.
So was that? Would you say that was good, or would you have rathered actually won it through battling?
I would have rather fought it through battling, but a win is a win, and I felt rather robbed after last week. But yes, the stewards, they deemed it to be an illegal corner cut, and I will go with their view. I will still disagree with that. But I'm not the steward here, so fair play.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you very much. Congratulations on the win. It's your first win in APC. And I get a feeling there may be some more incoming if you do join us for some more races. But yeah, thanks so much for coming in for a chat as well. And hopefully we'll be speaking to you again very soon.
Goodbye.
And that was, of course, our race winner, Alexis Mason, who joined us in the booth. And that will be the end of the interviews, I believe, because last week I missed out Ollie Matthews. I've not missed anyone out this week, right?
You have not, no.
Wonderful. Well, in that case, have we got any final thoughts on that one, Carl, before we end off?
I mean, yeah, I just think that the first two races were fun. They were great, but they were quite predictable. I think this race was just all over the place. We had medium tires, soft tires, intermediate tires, hard tires. Actually, we had every compound. We had every single compound used in this race. So yeah, what a fantastic one that is. Alexis Mason then, of course, taking that win that I predicted she would get. It felt like it was her time. Last week, arguably, she thought it was her time then, but just obviously, tried to do the right thing and end up getting her a penalty. So she felt a little bit lost out. But yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. It was really fun to see. And I'm hoping we're going to see her in a few more races. Ollie Matthews then has been on an upward trajectory since the first race. So by that measure, it's a win next week for Ollie Matthews. So we will find out. But yeah, fantastic one. Very much enjoyed that one. I almost want to get back on track myself, but I'm enjoying being up in the booth with you. A little bit too much, I think, Joseph. But I'm looking forward to next week as we finally race around Silverstone, a track that all of these drivers very much enjoy.
Yeah, it certainly is, unless your name is Ollie Matthews, a track that you very much enjoy. But that will be it from us here today. A dramatic one. I don't think I've been so clueless for quite some time as to what's going to happen in a race. But, of course, we have our conclusion, and it is Alexis Mason's first win in APC. That will be it from ourselves. Until next time, it is goodbye.
Underway.
Dance's authority once again.
My word, this could go wrong. On the brakes, goodness me, what a launch.
Look at that.
It just all comes down to this.